Hello, everybody. So come on in and get settled. Let me know if this music is too loud. Hello, everybody, and happy Halloween. We are going to be doing a fun one tonight. So come on in, get settled, do all your things, all your shares and all that kind of stuff. If you like what we do here and you want to support what we do here, the best way to do that is just to share, share, share. It is absolutely free. So we're going to give everybody normally about 5 minutes to get in here, get settled. Say hello when you get in. Let us know you're here. And if you're new, let us know where you're from, because we always like new victims here in the crypt. My name is Mother Della Mort, and this is my horror gallery. And we discuss all things creepy, high strangeness, and dark history. So yeah. So come on in, get settled. This is going to be a fun one tonight. I'm super excited about it, and just in time for Halloween. There we go. That's a little better. All right. Also, do not forget, if you have got a favorite in our 3rd annual Halloween contest, make sure to go to psychobunnydc.com and vote on your favorite entry, your favorite ghoul or ghost for the 3rd annual Halloween contest. Whoever the winner is will win some fantastic merch from us. Absolutely free. And the voting is free, just one per URL or IP address, for 24 hours. Now that does end tonight at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So make sure you get your votes in before that time. We've got a ton of them. And from my understanding, Akia and Hexus will be announcing the winner this coming up Monday night after Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat. So definitely join us on Monday and find out who the winner is going to be. So, yeah, so we've got about another minute, and we're going to give people time to come on in and say hello. And I do think that the notification went out. Yes, it did. But I do know that a lot of our supporters are probably out at departest this Friday night. So, but you can always catch it on the hashtag replay. And we will go ahead and get started. Let me just make sure I don't need to go over anything here. Nope. All right. So tonight we've got a really, really fun one. And I don't hear a lot of people really talking about this, and I don't know why. Because he is the #1 spooky ookie. We are talking about the Boogeyman tonight. So yeah, he's like the ultimate scary ghoul out there, and you really don't hear a whole lot about the subject specifically. So I thought that would be a great thing to cover tonight. So let's go ahead and begin. So whether thou art a ghost that hath come from the earth, or a phantom of the night that hath no couch, or one that lieth dead in the desert, or a ghost unburied, or a hag-demon, or a ghoul, or a robber-sprite, or a weeping woman that hath died with a babe at the breast, Whatever thou be, until thou art removed, until thou departest from the body of the man, thou shalt have no water to drink. Thou shalt not stretch forth thy hand. Unto the house enter thou not. Through the fence break thou not. So begins an incantation that started its life on the lips of a Sumerian sorcerer 6 or 7 millennia ago, before being pinned into a clay tablet in the 7th century BC by an Assyrian scholar and then placed in the great library of his king. And I'm going to do my best to pronounce this, as Shurbanipal at Nineveh. When the Babylonians sacked Nineveh in 612 BC, they consigned the library and its 30,000 tablets to the Dutch. In the 1840s, it was excavated and the tablet was taken to the British Museum, where the scholar Reginald Campbell Thompson translated it, and 43 similar incantations into the first volume of the Devils and the Evil Spirits of Babylonia, and this is the name of the title, being Babylonia and Assyrian incantations against the demons, ghouls, vampires, hobgoblins, ghosts, and kindred evil spirits which attack mankind, and that was published in 1903. So I always get kind of a little bit of a giggle when it comes to the names of some of these older books, because they were super specific as to what it was about. All right, so the boogeyman, also spelled or known as bogeyman, bog, boggy, and in North American English, also the boogeyman with 2 O's. Now, Wikipedia, as well as many other sources, will tell you this is a mystical creature used by adults to frighten children into good behavior. Boogeymen may target a specific act or general misbehavior, depending on the purpose of invoking the figure, often on the basis of warning from an authority figure to a child. The term is sometimes used as a non-specific personification of or mythonym for terror and sometimes the devil. But is it? Boogeymen have no specific appearance, and conception vary drastically by household and culture. But they are most commonly depicted as masculine or androgynous monsters. So let's go ahead and see who we have in the comments. I see some people popping in. Glad that you are here. Hi, Raven. How are you? And we will get to the comments as we are able, or as I am able. And so I wanted to just pop that in real quick. So Raven says, hello. Hello, Raven. How are you? Hope you are having a fantastic pre-Halloween weekend. We are talking tonight about the boogeyman. And please, guys, share. That is the best way to support us. So let's talk a little bit about the entomology of the boogeyman. Now, descriptions of the boogeyman may vary across cultures, yet there are often commonalities between them. These may include having talons or claws or sharp teeth. Now, the nature of the creature also varies from culture to culture. Although most examples are said to be a kind of spirit with demons and witches and other legendary creatures, they are less common as far as those types of creatures. They're less common variants of the boogeyman. The boogeyman seems to be its own non-descriptive entity. Almost like in Harry Potter, the Boggart, I believe it was the Boggart, wasn't it? They could take on the form of whatever a specific person was the scaredest of. Now, some are described as having certain animal features, such as horns, hooves, and bug-like appearances. Because of the myth's worldwide prevalence, it is difficult to find the original source of the legend. The boogeyman was first referenced from the hobgoblins described in the 15th and 16th century England. though boogeyman stories are almost certainly much older. It may derive from Middle East bog or buggy, meaning a terror or scarecrow. It relates to bugbear from bug, meaning goblin or scarecrow, and bear, an imaginary demon in the form of a bear that ate small children. That's not frightening. It was also used to mean a general object of dread. Now, many believe that they were made to torment humans, and while some only played simple pranks, others were more foul in nature. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of cultural variants. So let's just go over a few. Now, in Bulgaria, the Torbalan, or the man in the sack, is the name of the local boogeyman. In some places, a dark, hairy, ghost-like creature called the talisam, who lives in the shadows of barns or in attics, is what will come to scare children who misbehave. Now, one that is fairly well known, especially in the western proportion or the southwestern proportion of the United States and down into Latin America, is El Coco. Now, El Coco is a monster common to many Spanish-speaking countries. It is also referred to as El Cuque, and is portrayed as an evil monster that hides under the children's beds at night and kidnaps or eats the child, or a small humanoid with glowing red eyes that hides in closets or under the bed. Now, in Germany, the boogeyman is known as Der Schwarzmann, meaning black man. Now, the word black or Schwarz does not refer to the color of his skin, but rather to his preference for hiding in dark places, such as the closet or under the beds of children. Now, the boogeyman is not always male, such as in Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, and Serbia. In these countries, the boogeyman is called the barbaroga. Baba, meaning old woman, and rogovi, meaning horns. So the name literally means old woman with horns. The specifics of barbaroga vary from household to household. In one household, Barbaroga will take children and put them in her sack, where she will take them to her cave to eat. In another household, however, she will take children and pull them up through small holes in the ceiling, which leaves me with so many questions. Do they evaporate through the holes? Do they become very tiny and go through the holes? Or is it a bit more gruesome, such as in the 1980s version of The Blob, where the guy got pulled down the drain, to where it just pretty much, it's just a bloody, bloody mess. So I have so many questions about this particular boogeyman and why he prefers holes in the ceiling. I'm assuming maybe they had rats or something. I don't know. So now there was also Black Anna, who was a hag with a blue face and iron claws, who lived in a cave in the Dane Hills of Leicestershire. She ventured forth at night in search of children to devour, and we're going to talk about her again here shortly. There's also the Grindy Low, or Jenny Greenteeth, or Nellie Longarm, who were grotesque hags who lived in ponds and rivers, dragging children beneath the water if they got too close. So, us, the poor kids, constantly on guard. If the boogeyman wasn't in the closet or under the bed, now you have to worry about lakes and streams. Now, there was also Peg the Prowler. Now, she is a hag who is said to inhabit not the river, but the river trees. Now, these three are from the British Isles. Now, the boogeyman is a fascinating topic, as it is one of those stories and legends that spans centuries and cultures, though very few describe the same thing. It is a curious thing that different cultures, worlds away, over mass periods of time have tales for the same thing. Though most view the boogeyman as an embodiment of a cautionary tale or archetype to warn children of real-life dangers, no one cannot ignore the commonalities of the thousands of variations of this creature that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Nor can the mythos explain away actual experiences many claim to have, or have had, or in some way mirror real-life occurrences of the mysterious. And we'll talk about those here in just a moment. I'm seeing a couple of people come in, so let's say hello. So we have Calvin. And Calvin says, hello, Kisa. And I noticed we've got Kisa here. And she wants to add that I guess you can also find them in bathrooms. Well, you know, I would probably say, yes, you're right, especially behind the shower curtain. Especially behind the shower curtain. Because you know what? If you are alone in a home and you sit there and listen for a long enough period of time, you're not going to feel alone anymore. And then Kisa says, or seeing eyes staring at you from the closet. Well, it does make you wonder. It does make you wonder. So who knows? And then Kisa also says, hello, Odd Mother. Well, hello, hello, hello. I'm assuming I thought that the notification has gone out. Were they slow tonight? Or has everybody just been busy? Because I imagine tonight is a very, very, very busy night for a lot of people. All right, so let's get back to it. So like I said, nor can the mythos explain away actual experiences many have claimed to have had, or in some way mirror real-life occurrences of the mysterious. For instance, Baba Yu, in the countries of Central and Eastern Mediterranean, the creature is known as Baba Yu. Now, in Italy, the Baba Yu is also called, and I'm going to do my best because I always butcher it, l'uomo nero, or black man. And again, these references do not necessarily, well, they don't normally refer to the color of the skin, but the fact that this particular creature or boogeyman prefers to stay hidden in dark places. Now, in Italy, and I find this interesting when it comes to kind of connection, because even though a lot of these tales are super old and they were passed down orally or verbally until they were finally written down, or, you know, somebody took the time to do that, these legends and tales and folklore, they don't stop with our ancestors. We do them ourselves. I mean, there are legends of all kinds of, you know, different creatures and places and things like that that we would consider more modern. And so this particular form of the boogeyman I find interesting because he is portrayed as a tall man wearing a heavy black coat with a black hood or hat which hides his face. That would remind me of a more modern tale, and that would be the Hat Man. Now, the Hat Man is a phenomenon in which witnesses report seeing a shadow-like entity dressed in a trench coat and a hat of some kind, usually referring to it as a fedora. Now, the Hat Man acts like a ghost in some cases and is almost always seen there just kind of standing. This form can simply fade until the witness no longer sees it and has no apparent reaction to people. For example, many people report bumping into the entity, which does absolutely nothing for seconds or minutes, then moves around a bit and just vanishes as if it couldn't detect who saw it. However, others say that it brings along with it just this uncontrollable fear, like paralytic fear. And I know a lot of people will go back and say, well, it could be sleep paralysis and things like that. But if you start looking, I mean, if you go along with these things and you start looking at some of the stories that people, you know, claim to have had, Most of them were wide awake. They could tell you that this was not sleep paralysis because they could move. They could, they could move around and they could do what they needed to do. Unlike when you're suffering from sleep paralysis and it's hard for you to move your limbs and things like that. Now, unlike a ghost who might have visible facial features, the Hat Man is a shadow in the dark in its entirety, with no identifying features, except some do say that it has glowing eyes. Now, many have reported that this entity feeds on terror and does not vanish. He simply walks away as any normal person would, and that this shadow has substance. Now, when we talk about the boogeyman tales and the legend of the boogeyman, and how sometimes these experiences can mirror real-life events, let's talk about how a terrifying wave of unexplained deaths led to it's an icon now, it's a cult classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, in 1984, Wes Craven introduced to the world one of the most important iconic horror films of all time, The Nightmare on Elm Street. His creation of Freddy Krueger as a demon who kills teens in their dreams was horrible, like terrifying, and literally ripping. But the thing was that his creation of that character was, in a lot of ways, literally ripped from the headline. And if you think about it, so a lot of people, say that like the boogeyman can come to you with real substance. Sometimes in some folklores, the boogeyman comes to you in your dreams, and different things along those lines. Now, I do find the similarity with Freddy Krueger and the Hat Man very, very cool. Yes, you can see his face, and yes, he has blades for fingers, but the base of what his character was inspired on, the long fingers, the fedora, coming to you in your dreams, and striking out at people of a certain age. Now, Craven had found inspiration for the landmark horror film through an article that was published in the LA Times. He recounted the story of a refugee child from the Cambodian genocide. Basically, there was back when Pol Pot and all that was going over there in Cambodia, we did have a lot of refugees that came over and settled. Now, this child was terrified to sleep for fear that he would be attacked in his dreams and never wake up. And some accounts will say that he did report that he was being basically harassed in his dreams by some sort of entity. Now, when he finally did fall asleep, his parents thought that the crisis was over. Then, unfortunately, to their surprise, they heard screams in the middle of the night. But by the time they had gotten to the child or the boy, he was dead. He died in the middle of a nightmare. The story Craven describes wasn't an isolated incident. Dozens of Southeast Asian refugees in America died from unknown reasons in their sleep during the 1980s. The mysterious deaths were usually among young men in their 20s and 30s from the Hmong ethnic group, and affected a large enough segment of this population to alarm public health experts. Now, there's nothing to be afraid of in the dark is probably a phrase you have heard at some point during your childhood. And for the most part, it's true. There probably wasn't a creature under your bed or a monster in the closet. But for many of us, the dark still makes us jumpy. And there are definitely habits we change when we're out and about after dark. Fear has an important job. That job is to keep us alive. Without it, we might challenge dangerous animals or simply throw ourselves off cliffs without the fear of pain or death. It's a protection instinct. And we're going to get to the comments real quick, and then we will get back to it. And I do believe we'll go to a commercial after we do the comments. So let's see what's going on here in the comments. And so Nadine says she's checking in. She is at a Halloween party. So glad you decided to stop by. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great time. And then, of course, everybody's saying hello to Nadine. And then we have Mr. Giggles in the house. Hello. And he says, oh my. And Raven says she loves Wes Craven. Yes. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to a commercial break real quick, if I can find it. My big old fat fingers on this little bitty electronic. And then we will be back shortly.
On behalf of our wonderful residents and the Pickwich Chamber of Commerce, welcome to Pickwich, Ohio. Pickwich offers some truly special natural beauty, great lodging and restaurants, unique cultural activities, and of course, plenty of outdoor recreation. We have so much for you to explore in this little slice of paradise. Like our beautiful Ritual Hill, Parcosa Caverns, or Nug Swamp. We can't wait to get a taste of you. So, come on down and visit us. You won't find a friendlier gosh darn little town that's neither here nor there. Anywhere else. Need more information or help planning your next trip? Visit us on the World Wide Web at pickwichohio.com or contact our Visitors Center at 513-278-7701. Hope to have you soon.
And we're back. And by the way, that number does work, so give it a call. See what Pickwich has to say to you. Or maybe you'll need to leave a message for them. Who knows? All right, so let's get back to it real quick. Let me go back over here to the comments. All right, and we will get to them in a moment. Just periodically, I'll sprinkle them in there. So let them kind of build up a little bit. Because I know you guys like to have conversations over there in the comment section too. So please feel free to talk. And please, guys, if you enjoy what we do here, please, it's absolutely free. The best way to support your streamers is to share. All right. So, like I said, fear is a protection instinct. It's something for the most of us, we're all born with. Now, obviously, fear of the dark is an instinctual fear from millions of years of having predators possibly being in the darkness. Now, prehistorically, people would have been more at risk of being attacked by predators or by enemies when in the dark. Through evolution, humans have therefore developed a tendency to be scared of darkness. In the dark, our visual senses vanish, and we are unable to detect who or what might be around us. However, the peculiar thing is, though it may be a prehistorical instinct, we have been building buildings for over 10,000 years and civilizations for over 50,000 years. Yet the age-old fear remains. Now, as of 2022, fear of the dark is one of the most common fears among adults, along with the fear of heights, which I have both. It is estimated that 11% of the U.S. population is afraid of the dark. Now, that would roughly equal out to 37,462,457.01 people just in the United States alone. Now, the boogeyman is a fear entity, many believe, that feeds off scared fear. Most often, who are the easiest to scare? That would be children. And that many believe it comes from beyond the veil and uses closets and other dark places to manifest. Now, some people also believe the spirit world is a parallel dimension to ours, that it lies directly on top of ours, fully functioning in its own way all around us without us ever knowing. And if you ever get into anything, which I find absolutely fascinating until my brain absolutely starts to feel like it's going to explode, would be quantum physics, quantum theory. There's a lot of questions going on now about almost like what you want to call it, like the string theory, to where there could be, there's multiple dimensional places within the same given space. So I just find that kind of cool. So if you think of it that way, could there be doors to the spirit world? Well, our ancestors believed that there were physical places, and that these were often referred to as thresholds. Now, thresholds, these could be lines that we could cross to get into the other world. These lines are all around us, some believe, sometimes in absolutely obvious places. Now, a liminal space, which we have talked about liminal spaces before. A liminal space is a place in the physical, mental, and or spiritual world that is considered in between. It is neither here nor there, and is neither in the past, present, or future. I guess it could be closer to the past, maybe. And these liminal spaces are what are known to some as thresholds to the spirit world or other worlds. Now, one of these types of liminal spaces would be caves. Now, since prehistoric times, caves were an entrance to the land of the dead, the underworld, or to prehistoric ancestors because they left their markings on cave walls. Now, one of the most famous cave paintings is located near, and I'm going to try without messing it up, Montignac, France. In addition, the Aztecs feature caves in their myths as the places of creation, namely the 7 caves of Chico-Moztoc. The ancient peoples revered caves, not only for their comfort during the winter months, but for what caves represented. Now, for some, it was an entrance to the other world. To others, it was the womb of the earth. From the earth we come, and to the earth we return. Therefore, caves are an entrance to the spirit world. If you were to travel deep enough into a cave, some people believe that you would reach the underworld. Now, speaking about caves and boogeymen. Now, I didn't mention her a little earlier for those that may just be tuning in. Oh, and I see Frank. Is Frank here? Hello, Frank. We're going to go back and talk a little bit about Black Annis. Now, Black Annis is also known as Black Agnes or Black Annie. Now, she is a boogeyman figure in English folklore. She is imaged as a blue-faced hag or witch with iron claws and a taste for human flesh, especially children. She is said to haunt the countryside of Leicestershire and she lives in a cave in the Dan Hills with a great oak tree at the entrance. Now, there was a cave at Dan Hill with a great oak tree at the entrance. She is said to venture out at night looking for unsuspecting children and other livestock, such as lambs or goats, to eat. When she would find one, being that she really had a taste for children, she would tan their skins by hanging them on a tree before wearing them around her waist. She would reach inside houses to snatch people. Legends has it that she used her iron claws to dig her own cave out of the side of the sandstone cliff, making herself a home there, which is known as Black Annis's Bower Close. She was also known to hide in the branches of her oak tree, waiting to leap upon unsuspecting prey. Now, other traditions state that when she ground her teeth, you could hear her, giving everyone time to bolt to their doors and keep away from the windows. It is said that cottages in Leicestershire, kind of a tongue twister, were supposedly built with very small windows so that Black Annis could only get a single arm inside. Now, when she howled, she could be heard for up to 5 miles away, which would give then everybody in the cottage or the village time to fasten skins across the windows and place protective herbs above it to keep themselves safe. Now, the earliest known actual written reference to Black Annis was from an 18th century title deed that referred to a parcel of land, or what is also referred to as a close, as Black Annie's Bower Close. The first volume, it was found in the or listed in the first volume of Country Folklore of 1895, which was published by the Folklore Society. It mentions 2 such title deeds dated May 13th and 14th of 1764. Now, the Black Annis figure has several possible origins. Some have claimed, such as T.C. Lethbridge did, that the origin can be found in Celtic mythology based on the Danu or Anu, or it may derive from a Germanic mythology of hell. It's spelled H-E-L. Now, Donald Alexander Mackenzie, in his 1917 book, Myths of Crete and Pre-Hellenistic Europe, suggested the origins of the legend may go back to the mother goddess of ancient Europe, which he contends was thought of as a devourer of children. He identified Black Annis as being similar to the Indic Kali. It has been suggested that the legend may derive from a popular memory of sacrifice to an ancient goddess. It is thought that offering of children may have been made to the goddess that inspired the legend in the archaeological hunting period. The oak tree at the cave's entrance is also a common site of local meeting. Or was, I'm sorry. Now, Ronald Hutton, however, disagrees with such theories in his book, The Triumph of the Moon, A History of Modern Pagan Witchcraft. Now, he suggests that Black Annis of Leicestershire legend was based on an actual real person named Agnes Scott, who was a late medieval anchorness, or by some accounts a Dominican nun who cared for a local leper colony, who was born in Little Outram and who lived a life of prayer in a cave in the Dane Hills and was buried in the churchyard at Swithland. Not Switzerland, but Swithland. Now, Hunton suggests that the memory of Scott was distorted into the image of Black Annis, either to frighten local children or due to the anti-Anchorite sentiment that arose from the Protestant Reformation, which there was a lot of that kind of, I don't like him and she don't like her and all that kind of stuff when all the Reformations were going on. Now, in the Victorian era, the story of Agnes Scott, or Annis, became confused with the similar name goddess Anu. Lethbridge made his connection and went on to claim that Annis was the personification of the great goddess in the crone form. Now, the connection between Black Annis and Agnes Scott was made previous to Hutton, including the gravesite and the cave, which did exist, in an issue of the Leicester Chronicle dated February 26th of 1842, and was reprinted in the first volume of what we spoke of earlier, The Country Folklore, in 1895. Now, many of the modern conceptions of Black Annis were popularized in a poem by John Hayrick, given in full in the County Folklore, which was a periodical magazine for the area. And it goes, "'Tis said the soul of mortal man recoil to view Black Annis' eye, so fierce and wild, vast talons foul with human flesh, there grew in place of hands and features vivid blue. Glared in her visage, twist her obscened waist, warm skins of human victims close embrace. Not without terror they the cave survey, where hung the monstrous trophies of her sway. 'Tis said in the rock large runes were found, scooped with claws beneath the flinty ground." Now, on an occult perspective, other liminal spaces could be the cemetery and graveyards. And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. It looks like we've got some comments. So let's check in and see what's going on here. And so Akia says, Baba Yaga. Yes, there were so many versions of the Boogeyman that we would have been here for days and days and days and days and days. But I did try to pull some that were a little different than what we hear about. There was a similar one, Barbarossa, that we spoke of a little earlier, that liked to pull children through tiny holes in the ceiling. So yeah, that was that kind of caught my eye when I was doing research. Oh, and Frank says they are at Spirit Halloween. I love that place. We were there just last week and had so much fun. We had so much fun. So that's a fun place. I'm glad you guys are out there. That's cool. All right, I think I've got everybody. Let me just double check real quick. Yep. All right. So it looks like we're caught up. So some other, like from an occult perspective, other liminal spaces are, and we're going to go through these, cemeteries and graveyards. Now, the cemetery is an obvious liminal space and threshold to the spirit world. It's not only a resting place for the dead, it's hallowed ground and a place where people gather in love and loss. These things come together in a whirlwind of energy to provide a finite or definite threshold for the spirits to come through. There are spirits that are still attached to their bodies, as well as guardians of cemeteries who either, once human, were spirits or angels, or in some cases, the graveyard grim, which would be like spirit animals. Now, when you cross the cemetery gates, you literally cross the threshold guarding the outside world from the land of the dead. Now, historically, the gates of the cemeteries were made of iron in order to keep the spirits from getting out. Crossroads. Now, crossroads are the ultimate liminal space. In many traditions all over the world, the crossroads was and is a place where spirits congregate and could be contacted by the living. There's quite a few deities associated with the crossroads, such as Hecate, Papa Legba, the devil, and more. It's a junction where two roads meet or cross each other, a liminal space that is neither here nor there. Spirits linger in liminal spaces. And just keep that in mind because we are talking about the boogeyman. Doors and windows. In the older days, our ancestors believed spirits lingered in the doorways and windowsills. Just as a door or a window protects the household inhabitants from the physical world, they also protect us from the spiritual world as well. Spirits are attracted to the living, be it their loved ones or their enemies, and may try to enter a home. But sometimes they get stuck on the threshold for one reason or another. This is why it's bad luck to step on a threshold. You should always step over. The edge of the woods. Corners, edges, doorways of all these things have a common factor. They mark the perimeter of a place. The edge of the woods marks the beginning or the end of a group of trees, plants, and animals. Fairs, festivals, and marketplaces. This one does seem a bit odd. In fact, many spirits gather in places where there are a lot of human activity for a few different reasons. One of the most well-known for haunting such a place would be the jinn. One reason is they are attracted to the energy that living beings give off. Another reason is because they may think they're still alive. Yet another reason is because some spirits feed off the energy produced by large crowds of the living. Another liminal space would be groves. Groves are circles of trees. There are oak groves, pine groves, sequoia groves, cedar groves, willow groves. Just about any tree that groups together could be considered a grove. The hedgerow. The hedgerow is a row of bushes that guards one's property from the wild. It kept animals, intruders out. The hedgerow itself is a threshold between the family's property and the wilderness, therefore it is considered a liminal space. Once again, a place that is neither here nor there, but in the in-between, much like a door to the spirit world. This is where the term crossing the hedge comes from. It means to cross the threshold of our world into the spirit world. If you don't have a hedgerow, but you have a fence, that too is considered a threshold. Mirrors. Mirrors are powerful spiritual tools. Tools that not only reflect our images, but are also a threshold or door to the spirit world. You might have heard of people covering mirrors after someone in the family dies. This is to prevent the soul from getting trapped. Many people refuse to keep mirrors in their bedroom. Another liminal space would be seashores and beaches of all kinds. The seashore is a liminal space, bridging the gap between the earth and the ocean. It is another powerful threshold to the spirit world. And to the ancient Celts, the spirit world was to them located under the ocean. And of course, what we all know, abandoned places as a liminal space. You may be wondering, why would an abandoned place be a liminal space? There are places, they are places, but are no longer used by humans. So they technically no longer are places in the human's eye. They're no longer a daily destination. Therefore, they're neither here nor there. Again, pointing to the fact that they are indeed a liminal space and threshold to the spirit world. In places like Ireland and Scotland, castle ruins are particularly liminal and are frequently haunted by mystical creatures such as redcaps, gnomes, kobolds, and ghosts. And what I find really interesting is that there's got to be rules. Like if you're going to go along with this and you're thinking about liminal spaces and you're thinking about places that are considered neither here nor there or thresholds to like the spirit world, to me that would explain a lot about why you hear a lot. There seems to be a close relationship between the boogeyman and closet or under the bed. It's a place. It's not a place we go very often. The space between the floor and the bed would be considered a liminal space, such as the space within closets. But the closets have a threshold. So again, if you're going to prescribe and think of the boogeyman as a possible real thing, that makes a lot of sense with the whole door opening, and it just enough to scare you. But it does seem like when it comes to things like that, that there are rules. There are rules about what entities can and cannot do if left uninvited to do so. And I find that really cool. And then, of course, with like the abandoned places, then you're getting into the whole stone tape theory, which I really need to do a stream on that, because the stone tape theory is kind of cool. And it's basically just, in a nutshell, where different substances, minerals and things like that, within either a home or within the ground that the home may be placed on, can act as, they do have somewhat of an electrical charge, and they can act as almost like a tape recorder when it comes to absorbing high emotion, whether that be good or bad emotion. So yeah, we'll probably have to do something eventually on the stone tape theory. Now, I know Reddit is kind of like Wiki. You know, you got to be careful about what you look at on there. But I did find something that was somewhat interesting and applied to what we're talking about here, and talking about the liminal space and how that relates to the boogeyman. Now, in American folklore, it told that spirits tended to hang in the dimly lit upper corners of the room. Now, this was before a lot of houses had closets, away from where people moved around. So again, it would be in a room, but I guess technically it's perimeter, it's a corner, it's a liminal space. Now, one could assume that modern closet structures were less common in earlier times, which we do know in most cases they were. It has been noted that dying patients often converse with entities in the upper corners of rooms. If you consider the places we think of as spirit beings, such as closets, basements, attics, etc., perhaps these are the dimly lit or dark areas of our homes which aren't foreign to human presence, but which aren't commonly trafficked through. In other words, it's not like you have the boogeyman living in a trunk or in your kitchen cabinet, because that's not where a person's normally going to be. So it would, in fact, like basements, closets, things like that, attic, could very well be considered a liminal space. So what did our ancestors do to protect themselves against the spiritual or supernatural world? And we're going to get into that here in just a moment. I want to go ahead and check the comments, but we're going to run over just a little bit. I love watching the closed captions because they always say some hilarious things. Yes, we're not talking about black anus. We're talking about black anus. Facebook anus, not anus. I wonder what that's going to look like on the closed caption. And Kisa asks, is Baba Yaga related to the boogeyman? Yes, she is. And so is Krampus in a lot of ways. He's just a seasonal boogeyman. If you wanted to place him in some sort of category, you could very well place Krampus into the boogeyman category. And the thing that I find really interesting is with a lot of these boogeyman tales and legends, there's a lot of sacks being carried around. And one of the things the jinn were very well known for having was the sack. Take away the people that called upon them, or children, or what have you. He would put people in sacks and take them away. So I find that interesting. Yes, and church grims are like a dog, very close to like a black dog or padfoot or shuck, but he is meant to protect an area. And Raven says, I hate mirrors. I absolutely do hate mirrors. Like, I will not have them pointing at my bed if I can help it at all. I do not want mirrors on me while I sleep. To me, that is just super spooky. Yes, we did do one. That's reaching back. We did do one a while back on mirrors. It was pretty creepy. Pretty creepy. Some of the things that we talked about. All right. So where were we? All right. So what did our ancestors do to protect themselves against the spiritual or supernatural world? Because I know that we tend to go a little bit more on the logical side nowadays. But I don't ever poo-poo people from the past, because even though they may not have been able to explain certain things to you scientifically, a lot of times things that they did and different habits that they had and sayings that they had actually did have relevance, if that makes sense. Whether it be like on a medical level or season planting, things like that. And I don't see why the supernatural world would be any different. There are a lot of things in science. What is it? There's a saying in quantum theory or quantum science that says there is no supernatural. There's just science that we can't yet explain. So who's to say? Now, regional architecture is shaped by all kinds of things, including weather, soil conditions, available materials, building codes, and construction traditions. But there's a subset of cultural specific designs associated with much less tangible factors. There are approaches aimed at warding off ghosts, appeasing spirits, and otherwise handling apparitions and characters of myth and legend. And this is actually referred to as spiritual architecture. And I've got some pictures here. So let me get to where I need to be and see if I can get these pictures pulled up so I can show these to you. Hold on just a minute. Well, it's going to let me. All right, there we go. Okay. All right. So why do so many houses in Vermont have these strange crooked windows tucked under their eaves? And let me pull that up for you. The fact that they are called witch windows should tell you a little something about their origins. The site of only one witch trial to this day was ever in Vermont. So Vermont isn't an epicenter of witchcraft hysteria like Massachusetts was. But fears of the supernatural, trickery, and otherwise were strong enough to influence an architectural trend that even to this day in the 21st century carries over. Now, the reason for this, according to legends, witches can't fly in on their broomsticks when the window isn't straight. Now, the idea that design choices can have supernatural ramifications can be found in other parts of the United States. In the American South, and this is really weird, okay, because I actually thought this was a normal thing that everybody did everywhere in the United States. So I learned something. Apparently it's not, because we always did it. In the American South, blue paint on the ceilings of porches is said to ward off spirits. Paint is a collection of pale shades of blue-green that are traditionally used to paint porch ceilings in the southern United States. Like I said, I thought everybody did it. Everybody I knew always did it, so I just assumed everybody did it, but apparently not. Now, the tradition originated with the Ghoul people in Georgia and South Carolina. The word haint is an alternative spelling of haunt, which was historically used in African American vernacular to refer to ghosts or, in the hoodoo belief, a witch-like creature seeking to chase victims to their death by exhaustion. Now, originally, haint blue was thought by the Ghoul to ward off haints or ghosts away from the home. The tactic was intended to either mimic the appearance of the sky, tricking the ghost into passing through, or to mimic the appearance of water, which ghosts traditionally could not cross. Now, in China, curved roofs as well as winding paths were said to confuse evil spirits, which can only travel in straight lines. That was a new one. I didn't know that about the curved roofs. Now, a number of archaeological sites in the eastern United States excavated contained moats and earthwork enclosures, which have been variously attributed to ceremonial, agricultural, or defensive objectives. Certain prehistoric constructions were possibly designed partly as a barrier or barriers to restrict the movement of spirits or to protect the enclosed area from unwanted supernatural influence. Ethnographic accounts indicate that in historic times, the belief was widely held that ghosts could not, like I said, pass through water, and that the geometry of a circle was effective in countering magic or supernatural forces. And this is where we get like the salt circle and things along those lines. So the boogeyman's presence throughout history suggests a deeper, darker truth, one that lurks in the depths of our fears and feeds on our vulnerability. Now, whether a supernatural being or manifestation of our deepest anxieties, the legacy of the boogeyman serves as a haunting reminder that even in the safety of our homes, there could be something lurking in the dark, just waiting to strike when we least expect it. Happy Halloween, everybody. I hope you like that. If you didn't catch it all, you can always go back and catch it on the hashtag replay. To also let you know, we will be, and let me know if I'm wrong, Akia or Hexus, we will be choosing the winner this weekend. The cutoff time, well, I'm not going to say we're going to be choosing. We're going to be going by the votes. But the cutoff time to get your vote in is midnight tonight, Pacific Standard Time. So that would be somewhere around 3 a.m. for us East Coasters. But we're going by Pacific Standard Time. So get your votes in. We're going to tally those over the weekend. And then Monday night, after Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, we'll be announcing the winner. And that winner will win some awesome merch. So definitely tune in, get those votes in. And guys, I hope y'all have a really, really great Halloween, because I'm not going to see you until November. So have a wonderful and safe Halloween. Have a great and fantastic Devil's Night come Monday. And a fantastic Wednesday, or weekend, this weekend. And happy Halloween, everybody. Pleasant nightmares. Let me see if I can get out of here, because I always have a problem with this part. So hold on just a second. Let's see. All right. Happy Halloween, everybody. Bye.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.